took the level 1 course. I want to thank you everyone. Oh, I'm sorry.
Hi, I'm Bob Warner. I am my wife. Anyway, I'm moving back here after a 15-year hiatus. So I refereed here a long time ago, obviously. On the Pacific Coast, I played for Mile High Rugby Club, which nobody here is going to remember because it doesn't. And I played for Belmont Shore back in the old days.
Oh, you know what? I played for Back Bay back there.
Oh, we might have played against each other. You never know.
Yeah.
So, and I got the referee for about 30 years. And he was formerly an elite panel referee.
I'll say Bob has the distinction of being one of our only 3 A panels. Can anyone name the other 2? And the other one?
Jim moved to
No, from Rocky Mountain.
Scott Miller.
4 A panels. Tom Coburn.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone. So this is our first meeting of the season. Arguably, it's the most important meeting of the year as we kick off our spring season. So thank you for taking the time to joining us. We do have kind of a packed agenda today, especially since we're going to be talking about foul play. So just be aware of that as we kind of work through the agenda. We do have extra copies of the agenda for folks that if they need a copy. With that, I'll turn it over to Steve to talk about recruitment and retention.
Yes, thank you. So for the new folks, I'm Steve Gore. I am the Recruitment and Retention Officer for Rocky Mountain Rugby Referees. So thanks for coming. Really kind of 2 things that I'm going to briefly talk about today. The first is that we have a level 1 refereeing course coming up right here in the Glendale courtroom on February 24th. So if you talk to people in the next couple weeks, if you know of anyone who's sounded interested in being a referee, point them to this course. It's a really good way to get started. Again, February 24th, 9 a.m. here at Glendale. They register online. The information's on our website. It's on Facebook, or you can point them to me. So appreciate everybody's help getting anyone out to that you know. The second piece that I was going to talk about was something from our AGM, and hopefully we'll get a slide up about that. But if not, it's at the bottom of the agenda that I think everyone has just gotten. And that's this idea of, should there be a membership fee to be part of Rocky Mountain Rugby Referees? And this was a discussion that we had at the AGM, and it was pretty vague, sort of intentionally so, but maybe it wasn't very effective. So the ask, I think, was to go out and say, well, let's be a little bit more specific about like what that fee and what that value could look like. So this isn't meant to be a proposal for a fee, but this was our thought from the executive committee as far as here's some examples of the values that that we all receive as being members of this organization. So rather than focus right now on the should we pay a fee, I'm kind of curious just what people's thoughts are in terms of this list of value. Like, do we think, yes, this is good, we agree that, same thing that's on the agenda in a more legible format. Do we agree that these are the right categories? Do we think the numbers are about right? Are there things that we're missing? Like, are there things that you guys would, not you guys, that we would like as a group that aren't up there? Do you look at this and you're like, oh, Steve, that's total bullshit. Fitness testing, it's not worth $20 for me. You should be paying me to do fitness testing. So, it's just kind of a discussion as far as what do you guys see in terms of the value in being members of this organization. Or you can say that we nailed it and you completely agree.
I'm just kidding. What is Advantage Access?
Good. So Advantage is an online tool that you can upload match videos to and then do analysis of your performance as a referee.
And I'd also add solicit feedback from other people that are in Advantage.
Yep, very good. You can share clips and get feedback from other people. Absolutely.
So was the evaluation done based on like, what it would cost to hire these services out to a different entity, or what we think our time and value is? Or
So, for education, as an example, like that was looking at what it would cost to take a USA Rugby course for that amount of time. The scheduling and payment, like we actually pay that every year to someone to do that. Coaching is the price that we pay to our coaches to do coaching reports. Kit, again, is kind of what we're actually paying for that. Fitness testing is a little made up, and Advantage is based on, again, what we're paying for Advantage today. And then
There's real cost to rent the gym, right?
And certainly we've done that at times, right? We've been at Palladium, we've been inside here to do that.
I just have a question. So it's $72 per person for payment processing?
And scheduling, correct.
Per person in here is $72.
That's an annual.
Correct. Yeah, that's over the course of the year. That's again, this is based off of saying we had about 50 active referees. But yeah, that's correct.
right, so in there is include like transaction fees with whichever payment processing service we're using to pay the information. That's a cost, and some time to actually do those steps and record that in the accounting software. So there's
File taxes, 1099s, harass the clubs that don't pay. Yeah, all of those things.
Yeah, Steve, I've been involved in over the years with many referee societies, both in the Midwest, Southeast, and the East. And every one of them had a membership annual. I crossed the Mississippi, and I don't know if it's made it out here at all. Are there other societies out here? We used to.
Yeah,
We used to.
3
years ago, right?
5 years ago.
I found it very interesting. I meant to bring that up before, but every place I've been has always had a membership fee. There's been no griping or anything.
Yeah, Jim.
One, I'm in favor of a membership fee, dues, whatever you want to call it. And I think this is interesting because it shows what each of us gets, the cost of what each of us gets. It seems to me that another thing that ought to be considered if we're going to go with it is what does the society need to operate and pay all these and any other expenses, you know? And I don't see those numbers here. So, I mean, if we said, just to pick a number, $10 or $100 a person, is that enough to take care of all our expenses or not?
Yeah. Well, I think we're at an interesting point right now where we did really well financially a couple of years ago. 2017, we lost a little bit of money. We invested money, right? We didn't lose money. Last year, I think, came out a little bit ahead. And I think right now we're really looking at like exactly what you said. How much money do we need to do the things we want to do? And considering, does that money come from dues from our members? Does it come from raising prices to the clubs? Does it come from selling a sponsorship on our jersey? So yes, it's a very good point, and I think that's some of what we're looking to figure out. As far as the actual details of like how much money it costs, I mean, that's, if we haven't provided that, that's something we can easily provide from 2018. Yeah.
Well, as far as these numbers are concerned, I don't think any of them are out of line. I think it's very interesting. I mean, I'll accept that that's what we pay for scheduling and training or coaching or whatever. I mean, that shows that each of us is getting $400 worth of services from the society.
Yeah.
Multiply that by 50, what? 2,000,
Yeah.
20,000 bucks.
So just again, looking at this, if we were to pick, well, let me put this to you guys. Like, what do you guys think would be a reasonable fee, if you think a membership fee would be reasonable, based on this information and this conversation?
How do we get it right now?
That's true.
Kind of like Jim said, I'd almost turn around back on you. Like, what do you need? I mean, I mean,
Yeah, okay.
The other question I would have is, you're talking about it goes towards development or something that did not get concrete. Like, what would it go towards, that $20,000 that, you know, at this point, the club is kind of found, or not club, but the side has found money?
Yeah, I mean, I think again, it goes towards these things, but it goes towards exchanges. It goes towards scholarships, right? Like, we offer folks scholarships if you want to attend the NDS or a camp or something like that. I don't know. We could go through the P&L, right? And it's everything that's on there. But yeah, I mean, it's a fair point as far as like how much more money would we want to be taking in, and how does that change based on if we raise dues to clubs, right? If we raise our price to clubs. So yeah, that's something that would be interesting that we could probably figure out.
Just the other question I have is, are we increasing the amount of matches we're doing all the time, every year? Seems like with the high school rugby we are. So why are we gonna have to pay money if we're getting more money in because we're doing more? That's my question. I mean, I don't understand if we're already coming out at even and we're not going in the hole and we're getting more. It seems like we're getting more youth rugby to referee and more rugby all the time. Why would we charge ourselves more?
I think we've had to cut some things this last year.
Well, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah, I think we've had to cut some exchanges that we weren't going to go on. We've had to like cut some things that was for you guys for development. So
we also, a couple years ago, we did a bunch of video. Like, I don't know, but certainly, like, I had a game where one of those dudes came with like a 30-foot tripod and filmed, and I think we had a handful of people that got that. And it's pretty nice, right? And it goes into that advantage system, and that's something that we didn't do last year because of finances.
Okay.
Yeah.
A couple of things. One, I think any organization, including this one, ought to have a good kitty, because you never can tell when some expense is going to come up. You know, we want to get jerseys, we decide, as we once did, that we're going to give jerseys to the newbies. Once they referee X games, and that's an expense. We might want to subsidize somebody to go to a clinic or a Stellenbosch or something like that, and that could be one.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I always thought was good about this society was that the treasurer, whoever the money man was, he had the flexibility to adjust it. So if, let's say the number was $50, instead of saying, I want $50 from you by February 1, you could say, I understand you're a college kid, so it'll be $10 a month, or we won't pay you for the first 4 games, or whatever it is, balance it out, you know, leeway here and there, et cetera. That's always worked out very well.
Okay. So again, I don't want to take up too much time. Let me recap kind of what my impression of this conversation is. People think this is a reasonable representation of the value that people are getting. No one's like, wow, this is totally way off. There's a clear willingness to have some sort of membership due and dues, and you're asking us to come back and say, specifically, it's going to be $127 per year after your second year, something like that. Fair?
All right. Having just had to do this for our rugby club, to be able to change in management, I think what's been said before is pretty correct. You want to kind of identify what's going out the door and what it's going to, what's coming in the door, and then what that looks like to everybody who's involved in the organisation. And then if you do want to have a certain percentage of money available to kids, you do want to structure in a couple of overseas trips, that kind of thing. As long as it's all laid out, people can sort of see it. So the P&L is pretty quite close as well.
Yeah, and again, just so everyone's aware, like we do have a very clear P&L, like, and it's not a problem sharing that with you. But this is good. I think, like, again, we're looking for direction from the group, and I think we got good direction today. So thank you guys. Anything else on that topic?
Just to let you know, we're charging all of our players $400 for this season. Doesn't include salaries.
I think what's decided is we're going to come back with a very clear proposal that is like this amount of money, and it applies after this year, your second year, something like that, and then we'll discuss that.
So next is the operations report. So Dan Hattrip couldn't make it this evening. He sent me some notes. So his notes start with fill out your availability. He says it about 4 different times in here. So fill out your, if you don't walk away with anything else, fill out your availability.
Does anyone here not know how to go into Who's a Ref and fill out your availability?
I can probably figure it out. I should look at it.
Okay. Raise your hand.
We'll stay afterwards and show them.
Jonathan doesn't.
So if you
Jonathan is a referee. He took the course.
Yeah, perfect. We'll get you signed up.
So plenty of games. Schedules should be on the website. As far as being paid, fill out your availability. No. As far as being paid, he's planning on paying twice a month, and Gil is really good at that. So, but he asked that he's not going to pay until you reach $100. Okay, so if you do one game and you never get to $100, he's just going to pay you at the end of the season. Okay, so just to avoid the nuisance factor there. So twice a month, but it has to be as soon as you reach $100. The rest will be paid out over the season. If you want to get assigned and you want to get paid, you have to
Fill out your availability.
Thank you. Fill out your availability. So, and then he sent me another note reminding me that everyone needs to fill out the availability. So, anyway, it's going to be a busy season. We got a lot of games. It's going to be a fun season. A lot of stuff going on with rugby in Colorado. Please get in there and fill it out so we can get you out on the pitch. So that's it for Dan. So Rick Goldhammer is going to lead the next discussion on the law changes. I will acknowledge that Rick was my second choice. I'm sensitive about it because Mr. Brewer said he didn't have time to do it, only to find out that we actually did all the work. All you got to do is get up and talk. So anyway, so Brewer owes Goldhammer one. So
ABC.
On tour back home.
So this is the World Cup year, so World Rugby usually doesn't make huge changes leading up to World Cup, so these are more supposed to be clarifications, although there's one controversial thing that we'll try to skim over. So it used to say only qualified doctors or physiotherapists can come onto the pitch to attend to a player. I think they're just feeling like that was a little too specific because obviously there's paramedics and all sorts of people that are qualified to come on. So if you read it, they just changed it to accredited first aid or immediate pitch side care persons because that's much clearer. But anyway, basically the theory here is that they're just making it so anyone with the correct training can come on to attend to a player. But this looks familiar.
That's how you skim over it.
So this is a kind of a fun one because I never really thought about this either. It used to say in a ruck that a player had to be the last foot, which doesn't take into account that in a lot of the rucks that we see in a day-to-day type match, people aren't always on their feet and they aren't necessarily faced the right direction anymore because and again, we'll get into the controversy in a second, but this isn't the best image for depicting it, but say one of the yellow support players, there's only one yellow support player, ruck forms, they get blown off the ball and they're laying on their back and now their head is more toward their players, their feet are up under the red, counter ruck. The way the law was written, theoretically,
the yellow arriving players could go all the way to their players' feet, which is halfway down the ruck. I think all of us call it correctly, and that we would have told them, we keep saying last foot even though it's ahead. So I guess they're kind of just, they wanted to clarify that it's not just a foot in a ruck, it's the last body part. So the issue is that some of our law wonks like Jim noted that in the caption for the picture, of course, they say, where is it?
Ruck participant.
Participant versus a player. Yeah, so I wouldn't worry about that too much. Let the law wonks like duke it out in email. But the intent here is that it doesn't have to be a foot. It's the last body part for that team's, that you push them back to. That's their offside line. Make sense? It's pretty much what we've all been doing anyway. It's just I never really caught that either. We all say last foot even though it's a shoulder. Slide. I wish Weaver was here. We'd let him cover this. Come to the meetings, you'll get the jokes. So basically, again, it's kind of an odd image here, but so saying red steals this, blue's putting it in, the blue 9. Red steals it. And then the blue 9's on defense. As he comes back, and again, I think most of us have been doing it this way anyway because nothing ever good happened if the 9 goes in the pocket. But now they're officially saying that the defensive 9 cannot go in space between the flanker and the 8, which they kind of hashed out there. I would say even extend that back a little bit more even, just nothing good happens with a 9 up tight inside the loose forwards like that. So, but now officially it is a penalty if the 9 ends up in there. Yeah? Thoughts, comments?
It was the de facto law, not. Keep doing what you're doing.
It was a guideline.
Yeah, I was always, the 9, occasionally 9 would ask, and I'd be like, you are allowed in there. I just would really not go in there because if anything happens, I'm looking at you. And frankly, as a flanker, no self-respecting loose forward is going to let the 9 hang out in there for very long anyway. But foul plays later. So again, this was an omission, not really a change. They kept the image in the 2018 law book, but they forgot to add the 18.25 words. Same thing. You can't just, this happens a lot on a quick line, I'd say. Like players lose their mind sometimes and close down and just slap it down. It's a free kick. And the image was in, but the wording was not.
Law books are being shipped to my house, so we may have them at the next meeting, 2019.
Question on this?
Yeah.
I'm a new guy.
I was told there'd be no questions.
You were told no math.
Not
no
total math.
So I see the verbiage is not to block the throw. But if he's just standing in the way, if the ball touches in any form within the 5, whether it's any part of his body, is it a free kick?
You're liable for free kick.
What if he's intentionally hit the ball?
You're liable for. So as referees don't look for penalties, it's probably like a management issue. Like, listen, don't stand there, don't throw him with the ball. But per the letter of the law, if he's intentionally hit, he's intentionally hit. You shouldn't be standing there. But
so what Mark's saying is generally we would be like, hey, you two knock it off.
You get 5, don't hit him with the ball.
But they would be theoretically liable for a free kick.
Yeah.
You felt like they were loitering there for no reason.
If they were inside the 5, in my opinion, they moved with the thrower of the ball.
I'm saying I've tried that a few times. It's been both sides. Like I've got free kicks and I've had done the same thing.
Yeah. It's again, like there's 1,300 referees. All of them are going to referee a little bit differently.
Depends
Just
what
what kind of referee you want to be. I have enough penalty counts in my game. I don't need to add to it.
Or in a high school match, the player may legitimately not know.
Yeah.
They just think, so that's more of a verbal thing where it's like, at an MLR level, the guy clearly knew what he was doing. So.
Yeah.
One quick thing I forgot, little segue on the first one. I was watching a match this year and I saw a coach and a physio kind of talk a referee out of sending a player off for an injury, a head injury.
Huh.
Well, it was one of those, anyway. just so we're clear, like, I don't care if it's the player, assistant, whatever they said, you know, like, it's our right at any time, or our responsibility to send someone. If you feel like you see somebody go down like a sack of potatoes and then have trouble getting up, you know, and I mean, sure, they feel fine 5 minutes later, but I mean, it's completely within your right, and I'd say almost obligation, to make sure the coach has got his head in the right place. Because as far as I know, nobody here is refereeing, you know, World Cup, Pro, or anything like that. So, I mean, honestly, it's never been a huge issue. I can only think of a couple times where I had to, like, no, you know, sorry, coach, this is on me. We can talk about it after the match, but I saw him go down. He had trouble getting up. You know, he's done for the day. Cool.
Yep. Well, by that same thing, I actually was AR in a collegiate game, and trainer was calling players over to the sideline to be assessed. And I said, well, first of all, there's no head assessment in the United States at this level. And I said, well, we kind of told before by other referees in this group, in the society, that was happening. We know that happened. So no, if you suspect it, they're out of the game, you can deal with that off the field, and a physician can take care of that. If you take them off, you think, or you're evaluating, they're done for the day as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And as far as we're all concerned, I think that's the.
Yeah.
There is no brain bin with what we referee.
Yeah.
I mean,
Recognize and remove. Just
if you don't know, that is a thing at the World Cup level. They have independent neurosurgeons in a room to assess people, and they do like kind of a brain bin, you know, blood bin type thing. But we are not them. And, for some reason, some high school coaches think that's a thing now.
Yeah.
It's not.
So just to be clear, if it's a suspected construction, then they're off for the remainder of the game, even if a medical person says no, they're okay.
I mean, I'm not guessing, but if I see somebody that, I mean, I had one where, I mean, I saw the guy go down like a sack of potatoes and had trouble getting up, and they wanted to bring him back in. I'm like, you know.
so to be clear, like if you're playing with 15 and your trainer wants to come on and do whatever assessment they're going to do, and not take them off, that's their right. But the referee is sole judge of life. The referee says, I'm going to remove him. I don't care what the trainer says. The referee is the end all be all of that, right? So if the referee is fine with it and doesn't think he's that concussed or whatever, like just a little bit of a knock, or whatever, just like a slight, and you don't want to sub him, you can't sub him out. You can come on the field, do whatever assessment you can on the field, and play short, and then put him back on there. But it's not a head injury assessment per World Rugby regulations for international matches. But if the referee says and looks at him and says, no, you're done, he's done.
But you can pull somebody off.
You cannot pull him off. You can come onto the field.
Right. But if you pull them off, they're off.
You cannot sub them out, and you can't sub them out, take them off the pitch, and then put another sub on, and then swap back later. There is none of that. That's
Once
a head
they
injury
cross
assessment.
the line, the try line, or the touch line.
Once he leaves the
cannot
playing
come back
enclosure.
in. So if you're on field, you trust the trainer, and you use a referee, feel like it's okay for that player to stay. That's fine, as long as that was done on the field. Right. But as soon as they cross the touch line, they cannot come back.
Yeah. You need the referee's permission to leave the field.
And this isn't a huge issue. I just happened to see it this year. That's why when I was watching or reading the law, I reminded myself that, yeah, it's up to us ultimately. So I don't care what medical professional is coming on. Like, if I think he needs to go, he needs to go.
So on the crossing the touch line, so when I talk to the trainer and introduce myself ahead of the game, I remind the trainer that if you take him across the touch line, I'll take him back.
All right, and last one. Sorry, it's going a little long. Again, this is kind of just bringing this in line with what the lineout was already saying. I'm not a huge fan of this anyway, but, you know, I don't write the law book. So this has to do with typically a kickoff or maybe a 22 where, players are now allowed to lift a teammate, to receive that kick. They're basically bringing the same rules around bringing the player down safely in the lineout into that situation in open play. So if not only do they have to bring them down safely, but they also have to bring them down if the ball's been clearly won. There's a little bit, again, above our level. There's some looking for a penalty by keeping the guy up and hoping somebody runs into him. But that's not really us. This is more, they can't just throw the guy, the lock can't just throw the winger, like up and just hope for the best, they got to bring him down safe, just like a lineout. Yeah? I'm out.
So there'll probably be a little more clarification on that one about the rock coming, because Jim and his counterparts are arguing over the fine details of that. So that gives you kind of an appreciation of what the law change was. Next, we wanted to talk about foul play. I just want to take a minute on the early part of the foul play discussion and talk about high school and high school boys, which is starting up. Because the foul play laws for high school are slightly different than they are for the men and women's levels, college and the open levels. So very simply, the two law differences are that high tackle for high school kids, the U19s, is the middle of the chest. So anything above that point is foul play, okay? The other law difference as it relates to the high school kids is that fending to the face is foul play, okay? So not everyone knows that, not a lot of coaches know that as well. So you run out of people start arguing with you when you call that. So so keep in mind as we go through, we're going to do a exercise here. We're going to talk about foul play. Yeah, Steve.
There's a third U19 foul play. Maybe it's not foul play, but safety item, which is the squeeze ball in the tackles. But I guess that's not really foul play.
Yeah. So okay. So on that, yes, you're right. So with the squeeze ball, that's when you take the ball, you're in a tackle, you've been tackled, and you squeeze the ball through your legs. Okay, you're on all fours and you squeeze the ball through the legs. That's not allowed in high school play. Okay, I mean we all did it in open play, but it's not allowed in high school play. So it's one of those things that you generally, again, you manage it. Typically, you would say something. And you say it loud enough so everyone could hear you. And then you would, if you had to, you would penalize it. But typically, you don't see it too much anymore. I know the coaches have been working hard to get that out of the game. But you may run into a squeeze ball situation.
Squeeze balls are penalty, but the first two could be automatic yellows.
No, the first two, depending on, we're going to talk about some of that, depending on the severity and the intent. The discretion is up to you. A lot of times when we see it in high school, especially at the lower levels in high school, it's unintentional. All right, so you're just going to have to decide that. If you see it at the women's or the girls' high school level, we do in the fall, most of that is actually unintentional. So you're just going to have to make that call on the field. So we're going to go through some stuff here that would maybe help with that. So which brings up the point, how do you enforce foul play? At the high school level, we encourage you to call the foul play when you see it. Don't play advantage unless there's an obvious opportunity to score, okay? Otherwise, just blow the whistle, stop it, call the player over, call the captain, talk to him. Make sure your signals are big and loud so everyone sees them. Coaches are watching on both sides. Parents are watching in the stands. Just call it, stop the game there, have the discussion. Whether you award a penalty or you issue a card is up to you, but don't let it foster, all right? Call the first one you see, set the standard early. Don't play advantage unless it's an obvious scoring opportunity. So that I just want to make those points as we go through and look at these. Some of these are not high school related, but you may see a little bit different out there in high school players.
All right, so for those who have never been here before, we do this little little trivia game called Kahoot. So if you don't have it on your phone, get with someone who does have it on their phone and learn how to. Is that a flip phone, Randy?
Yep.
You can
Take
fax
your
it in.
non-flip phone and download the app Kahoot.
Do you actually have to? Do you have to download it, or can you just use the?
Enter the pin. The foul play Kahoot. And it's kind of tricky because a yellow card may not be in the color yellow. It may be blue, and you get a. Yeah, well, hopefully you can read English. We still waiting? Everyone good? Ed, still good? All right, so a clip's gonna play, and then you have 20 seconds to make your call. Points will be accumulated for correct answers in a row, and the faster you make the correct call. Is everyone still, do we need to wait for anyone? Paul, we need to wait?
Somebody with his cell phone there?
Thanks, Rick. Never gets old.
While we were waiting, Zenobia wasn't at the AGM, but she won our award for Community Referee of the Year. We will get to other awards later.
Not that good, but who had 25? 7, living over 100 how long?
I'm all tired from the fitness test you didn't show up for.
448.
Oh,
yeah.
Is there a way to like take that and leave it kind of thing?
Yeah, typically we'll do one before every meeting if the weather's reasonable and we're on top of things.
Just
All right, Mark, what do I do?
40-60.
Yeah, there's I think if you Google Bronco test, there's a video. And if you text me tomorrow, I can send you a link to it too. 406. 406.
Okay. All right, we're going to proceed because we're in moonlight.
Well, tell us, we're just assessing about how big.
Huh? Yeah, I don't know.
Full screen.
Sorry, hold on. I'm trying to. The second one. Oh, we yeah. Sorry. I can get back in there. Hold on a second. Let me.
This one always looks good.
Yeah.
TMO. He didn't try and talk.
I don't know why the first one didn't give you 20 seconds. Sorry.
What are we doing?
Wait, what?
First one didn't give you 20 seconds. So. I must have changed the setting in there. All right. I'll take a play on or PK only on that one. Player ducked into it. Upright tackle.
Like I thought he got down. Like
Yep.
That was a clean hit to start. That guy just really.
Yep. It's upright. They call it upright tackle.
Man, FJP.
And this is the very first play of the game.
Yeah.
Wow, someone's really on it.
Ooh.
Oh no. I picked the color.
Gotta read. You pick the color. It's a blue card.
It's a blue card. It's a referral. White card.
Ah.
FJP.
That's what you didn't record it. It was goal. You see this is the goal.
Red is green.
You need more content? No. Foul play, not contextual refereeing. I hope you did.
Mark, can you hear me? I think we're on our own. It sucks, doesn't it? Sure does.
So this is going stand. You give it yellow.
No, because it's a chop tackle. I give it yellow.
Do you want to maybe talk about it?
I will at the presentation. This is it. This is a calibration, and then we'll talk about presentation. We'll talk about it. Well, there you go.
Yeah, they just.
Only one.
Is that one? Jouer. For me, no faux play.
Sir, this is rugby, sir.
Yeah.
Very dangerous.
Congratulations, you can referee in the World Cup. Ooh, red cards. Saucy.
Really? Because he went on his shoulder.
Yep. Land on his lower back and shoulder.
Boogie boards.
He didn't even try for it.
He didn't take his eyes off it.
Colors are pretty.
You control the colors?
I can. That's how you sequence them.
Whoa. Dude, I get
Did you just not see how he landed on his neck? Just because he landed on his butt after he flipped over 3 times.
But the other guy was going to try to win the ball.
No, it doesn't matter. The height. We'll go over this. We will go over this.
Ooh. I already know what it is. Come on. Come on.
Did I answer? Yes, I did.
Oh, what? I just read the other option. Oh. Yeah. Oh, yellow card. Someone didn't read all the answers. 6 of you.
Somebody said we can't see.
Oh, no, I don't know.
Sorry.
Sorry. Come to the meetings. There's no chance.
Yeah, there is.
No.
TMO. Yeah.
You guys seen the ARC how they're walking over to the technical zone to do the
Bowling?
TMOs?
I'm just trying to get it.
World Rugby, and then the last, there's 4 of them that were the Six Nations referees, but they went with the majority. Okay, who guessed yellow card only? Bob Warner, why?
Couldn't catch it. There was no, it wasn't obvious prize situation. It was simple.
So how is this different than the last clip?
Because the last one was that there was a 3-man overlap on the defense.
This is new. This is a new. This is a new illegal action by the ball carrier.
Oh.
It's a 8-10. No way. 25.
Oh, red.
Yep. So anything to the head or neck area with a forearm or elbow from the ball carrier is a red card.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that doesn't count. He knows the answers.
One.
That's the one.
Oh, boy.
It's a WITSEC. He went to witness relocation.
Is that what you call it? Drug? I didn't see it. Yeah.
Standing down a little worse.
I know.
The last one was red.
Randy, you're not going to be happy with this one.
Really? Really?
Well, you're gonna go through all of them?
No. But I'll go,
Nope, just not.
but I'll go through different slides. I don't know. Do you want to be here till 10?
I have a question. Could you put these on render, or could we get this somehow so we can try it again?
Always.
You gotta text it to him.
No, I can do it without.
Do you want to come over to my house and use my phone again?
No, I could just.
What?
Oh!
What?
Stand-up tackle. Mark off. Calibrated with World Rugby.
Wow.
Oh. Find you. All right.
Good job, guys.
Thank you. Lovely to see you again, Rick.
New share. What do I need to do? File play presentation.
Where's home? Where's home? Okay,
I think so. I don't think I've seen many of those. I mean, I was 6 out of 10, right? Like, we got the same number correct. It was just a timing question.
I lost the call.
And the stupid color, stupid red not being a red card. Really. Yeah, well, rugby players move too, Rick. You know? There's 30 of them out there. They aren't standing still. Sometimes. I think didn't they change jerseys in the MLR match at halftime? I thought at Seattle, San Diego, they switched jerseys because the weather was so bad. Am I making that? Am I on drugs again? I want to change my jersey as well.
No, no one changed yours.
USA does that all the time. Provide
Yeah, not
Would you
different
like
colors.
to put this up so you can see or something?
No, I'm all right. Thanks.
I'm not.
All right, I will go through this question. I will go through this presentation. It's quite lengthy. We got about 10 minutes, but we'll probably, so we're going to just kind of hold off. Again, if you have any questions on any of these calls, you can email me at rdo@rockymountainrugbyrefs.com, and I'm happy to share these presentation and the Kahoot and have a chat with you whenever you like. All right? So foul play, onus is on the players to play within law, and they're responsible for their opponent's safety. Referees should have an awareness of deliberate infringements, and when teams are under pressure, appropriate sanctions. Decisions are made in real time which is a mitigating factor of the severity of the sanction. All right. So direct contact with force to the head or neck is probably a red card. Direct contact with minimal force is a yellow card. Indirect contact with force, so it slips up, but the player still goes backwards, is a yellow card. Indirect contact with minimal force, this is just a dangerous tackle, is a penalty, right? If it's accidental, there's mitigating factors may lower the sanction, but a minimum is a penalty. All right, this is new. A leading forearm, we just talked about it. Contact to the throat, head, or neck is now a red card. Even if the initial point hits in the chest and comes up to the neck, it's an automatic red card. I don't know if you've seen the women's game, USA-Ireland. It's the same thing. She hit shit like that. So if you're running out and I make contact with Steve like that, it's a red card.
Super. Here we go.
But basically, if I'm run like that, that's probably fine.
You show the first one in.
But like that, not with full force. Again, yeah. Like if you come up like that and lead with your elbow, you're liable for a red card. Yeah, you can hit like that with your shoulder, right? But you can't just come out like that.
I mean, if it's like, while you're holding the ball in your chest, it goes out in front of you like that.
Well, it's going to be tough. to hit someone with their elbow like that and the ball in there, right?
Well, that's a forearm slash elbow.
Well, so like that, because I'm not gonna be able to hit your throat like this.
Go for
Yes. This will be very tricky to catch. All right. This is, as an AR, something to look for when the ball carrier is going into a high contact. What would be a trigger? Watch what 9 does after the fact. Immediately grabs the throat. Again, this is going to be very difficult for those of you without TMO to catch.
Is it always against scrum half?
Yes. Yeah.
Real stand-up tackles, right, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, this is where it's happening, right? Okay, so these are the upright high tackles. It's high and always above the shoulder. Slipping up to the shoulder. If the leading tackler's shoulder makes direct contact with a force to the throat, head, or neck, it's a red card. There is a passive challenge called an upright tackle where the head hits the shoulder and not the shoulder hits the head, which is that it's the action of the ball carrier hitting the tackle, which is that red clip right there. Could be used as mitigation.
What do you mean by mitigation?
So it's not, I'm going to come down from red. It's a yellow. I'm going to come down from yellow. It's penalty only. This is play on. Yep. Because his head ducked into his shoulder. Look, so again, with these clips, right? I don't know if you were here a couple of meetings ago. We want. It's okay to be one off. So if it's play on and you go peek on only, we're okay with that. But if it's red card and you're going penalty only, that's an issue. So it's okay to be one off. If it's yellow card and you go red card, we'll back you. If you go penalty only, we'll back you. But if it's red card and you're going penalty only, we should probably look at that and get some more training on it, okay? But like off one is okay. So yeah, in high school, I'm fine with you calling this a penalty for player welfare.
Yes.
So that's a play on. You're seeing this one, right? Play on. So this would be minimal force. Always high, but there's minimal force. Because the player's still going forward. This is probably penalty only. Because there's minimal force. I didn't knock you back. That's force. There's minimal force. I went high, started high, and brought you down.
So how would the size difference impact that?
No. Again, it's always high, started high, threw his arm out, marginal swing, minimal force, player still went forward. It's probably a penalty only. But again, if you go yellow on this, we're not going to throw you to the wolves. Right? Yeah, how much control? What's the game look like before? Have you had issues before? You know?
So what was it?
It was a, sorry. It was a yellow card.
Question for you, because it was a try, was it a center or did it?
It was touchdown.
Oh, it was a touchdown.
The contact tonight is kind of Danny Cipriani got to bang himself there. That is nasty. It's a direct shoulder into the face.
There's no such thing as incidental.
Serious trouble.
Yeah, the arm.
On who?
Cipriani. It's all right. Tackler, shoulder, direct contact with the head. So the shoulder makes contact with the head, not the head making contact with the shoulder.
Ow. He's not ducking down into it at all.
No.
Ooh.
Players raising up, shoulders. Okay, it's red card.
They're trying to play the referee all the time at the moment, and Luke, I think, is taking a huge whack to the jaw there.
No, he's saying check that out.
Okay. I've seen it again. Check. Rises up.
See the player rising up. So, Jonathan, you had a question about like the Samoan, like the Islander. Like they kind of tend to tackle like up, like rising up, right? So like they come back in their arms. Basically, if your arm's back and you're making a tackle, you're really in trouble. However, if my arm's up, I'm more likely to be a mitigating factor, right? Anyone happy that's not a red card?
Yeah.
All right. So chop tackles again. Targeting joint on the last clip, he got him in the thigh. So be careful. This will be, again, tough to catch targeting a joint. Here's a yellow card.
How do you determine what the targeting is?
Well, you'll see. So that's good textbook. This is the targeting.
After he just got rid of that pass, it looked like possibly his right leg he's looking at. And he's been playing some very good rugby. It might be the left one. He's been playing some very good rugby the last season or so.
So watch 13.
Looking right
Wow.
That was a late, dangerous hit. I don't think there was a wrap there. Finally, but here's that hit. Oh, it's absolutely late and shocking. First receiver. And the ball spits loose. It knocked up.
What'd she get him? She got it for play on. Neck rolls, right? It's dangerous. It's a good PK. And we'll just try and burn through these. We're gonna skip this. I'll make this available to everyone, but this is a new. Oh yeah, these are yellow cards charging. If anyone's seen this game as play on.
It's like he wants to stay on his feet. He did.
I mean, even after he backs up, you can see him go like this.
And we will go as long as I have power to this PC. Here's Cipriani again. Oh, excuse me. Oh, sorry, it's Farrell, isn't it?
Yeah, really. He didn't vanish the white. Yeah, he did.
Swinging arm tackle.
That was a no call, right?
Yeah, that was a no call.
Did you say they got that wrong?
World Rugby is saying they got that wrong. This is interesting. Yeah. Got smashed.
60 meters away, Mark. We're playing. Okay.
Check, check.
Like a torpedo.
Yeah, you will see this at the high school level. Because kids play football. So you really have to be.
So here's the thing where players are pushing their teammates in.